now on topic 3, and we are going to look at the Catholic threat to Elizabeth across her reign. Okay, just be very wary of dates here, with the one major one I think you really need to remember being 1569, because you need to know the kind of threat that the Catholics pose either side of this date, and we'll get onto that in just a second. So, what does the Catholic threat look like for Elizabeth from the time of her religious settlement up until the revolt of the Northern Earls? So that's 1558 to 1569. So pre-Northern Earls, what is going on? Firstly, we've got the problem of the papacy. Just as a reminder there, the papacy is the Pope. Okay. So the Pope has, from abroad, issued his first papal bull against Elizabeth, telling them not to go to church or recognise her as the supreme governor of the Church of England. This isn't a major threat to Elizabeth, but it does give the Catholics encouragement in defying her, and later on this will encourage the Northern Earls. We then have Scotland and the problem that this poses here. Mary, Queen of Scots, is Elizabeth's cousin, and she has a strong legitimate claim to the throne, and she's also Catholic. Her mother is Mary de Guise, and she's from a powerful French Catholic noble family. So Mary, Queen of Scots, already just has super alliances from her blood. There is some upset in Scotland with the Scottish Protestants, and they do not want Mary, Queen of Scots, on the throne. This in part is because of the scandal that she's caught up in, where her husband, Lord Darnley, is found mysteriously murdered, probably by her next husband, Lord Bothwell. There are letters found in a casket linking Mary to Bothwell and the murder, and this evidence causes quite a huge scandal in which Elizabeth has helped the Protestant lords in their uprising by partly funding this, and it leads to Mary escaping from Scotland to shelter in England in 1568. So you need to know that on Mary's arrival, she is opening up Elizabeth to a little bit of vulnerability here, as Mary is a very good Catholic replacement for Elizabeth. In terms of France, Elizabeth has been helping the French Protestants as they are having some similar problems in their country, and she wants Calais back. She accepts that this is not going to happen under the Treaty of Troyes in 1564, which ends the conflict. So she has no alliance in France there. Finally, we look to the Spanish Netherlands. Now, Spain have control of the Netherlands, and they have done for some time. Elizabeth doesn't mind this. She recognises that Philip has a legitimate claim to the Netherlands. However, what changes is that Spain place an army in the Netherlands, and this makes Elizabeth nervous because the Netherlands is fairly close to England, and now she does not want the Catholics to have a leap pad into England to launch an attack on her. Things change in 1566. There is a Dutch revolt, and you need to know that Dutch Catholics and Protestants are uniting against the Spanish Inquisition. This is where they are being tortured and murdered by the Spanish if they are showing that they are not loyal to the Spanish. The revolt is put down, and this leads to something called the Council of Blood, where Catholics are forced to... Catholicism is forced, and they are forced to show loyalty to the Spanish crown. This is the Dutch people. Elizabeth openly criticises the Dutch Protestant rebels. She does this to show support to Philip, but secretly she is allowing them to shelter in England. These are known as sea beggars, so these Dutch rebel Protestants are known as sea beggars, and they are hiding in English ports, and they are attacking any Spanish ships that are going past on their way to the Netherlands. This is indirectly supporting Protestant uprisings in the Netherlands. Elizabeth doesn't want to commit to openly helping them because she doesn't want to be a Protestant target. The next thing she does is stealing the Genoese loan in 1568. This is money that is from the Italians and it is going to pay the Duke of Alba in the Netherlands. However, taking this money helps support English interests by disrupting that money. It means the soldiers are not able to be paid. And it's an indirect way of not getting involved with a Protestant versus Catholic war. The big date that you need to remember, 1569. So the Catholic threat before this, it is always a threat, it's a background threat, but 1569 changes everything because we have the first attack on Elizabeth by Catholics. So it's led by the Earls of Northumberland and Westmoreland. They are from ancient Catholic families up north, and they've lost some of their influence when Elizabeth has become queen. Because she is Protestant and they are Catholic, they are not her favourites. The Duke of Norfolk, who is Elizabeth's cousin, is also involved, and he is Protestant but has strong Catholic sympathies, and he also wants a go at having the throne for himself. Mary, Queen of Scots, is also involved, albeit not directly. She's under house arrest when the plot is planned, but she's going to form part of the plan here between Northumberland and Westmoreland. Why do the Catholics want to attack at this time then? The Earls remain Catholic and they are upset that Archbishop Pilkington has been sent to the north to curb any influence of the Catholics. They don't want a big Catholic stronghold in England, so they are being watched. They're very upset by this. The other reason is political. So the Queen gave a job that Northumberland wanted to a Protestant called Sir John Forster, and this job was looking after the Scottish borders. So remember earlier I spoke about patronage and giving good jobs to your favourite nobles. This is one of them. This causes upset to Northumberland. Cecil and Dudley are disliked by the Northern Earls because they are given prominent political jobs. The Earls don't like them, they look down on them. William Cecil distrusts them completely. The idea was that Northumberland and Westmoreland would raise a rebel force in the north. They're going to take Durham, which has a grand cathedral, and they are going to march to London. They're going to meet Norfolk. Spain will also send some troops to support this, and they will meet, they will join, they will march on London, and they will overthrow Elizabeth. They will put Mary, Queen of Scots, on the throne, and she will be married to Norfolk. That is the plan. What actually happens then? The plot's discovered, Norfolk is arrested, and the rebellion begins. The Earl of Sussex is in charge of trying to raise a Protestant army here to meet the rebels, but is finding it quite hard. The Northern Earls, in a great sign of disrespect, hold a Catholic Mass at Durham Cathedral, and Elizabeth very cleverly decides to move Mary further south, away from the rebels. She doesn't want them getting their hands on her. Meanwhile, the rebels go to Hartlepool. They're waiting for Philip II's troops to arrive. He's promised 10,000 and they simply never turn up. Meanwhile, the Earl of Sussex has been successful in gathering 14,000 Protestants. They reach the River Tees and they meet the 5,400 Catholic rebels. They realise they are grossly outnumbered and lots of them try to flee back north. Westmoreland escapes, but Northumberland is captured and he is executed alongside 450 other rebels. Elizabeth comes down very harshly on these by having their various body parts displayed all over northern churches as a reminder to the north to not try that again. In response to this, the Pope releases a second papal bull in 1570 which excommunicates Elizabeth. Now, this is very important because he encourages Catholics now to not recognise her legitimacy and even try to get her off the throne. In response to this, Elizabeth passes something called the Treason Acts. This bans any circulation of any papal bulls, so you are simply not allowed to read anything that the Pope prints, and the power of the Northern Earls is ended. She establishes something called the Council of the North, not to be confused with the Council of Blood, and this is where the North are very closely watched from now in order that another rebellion does not take place. So what is the takeaway here? It gets slightly harsher for Catholics after the revolt of the Northern Earls. I must mention as well, she takes pity on Norfolk and decides not to execute him after this plot. After this, we have several other plots, and you do need to know the differences between them all. The first being the Ridolfi plot in 1571, and it's led partly by Ridolfi, who is an Italian banker, but he's also a spy for the Pope in Britain. The Pope gives his blessing for this. Philip II is going to bankroll this, so he's going to give some money for this. The Duke of Alba is going to assist by leading the plot for the Spanish. The Duke of Norfolk is going to commit to this one again, and in part it's going to involve him marrying the Mary Queen of Scots again and bringing Catholicism to England. The plan then is that there will be a Spanish invasion with the Pope's blessing. The Duke of Alba will lead the 10,000 men, Norfolk will start a rebellion in England, and Elizabeth will be murdered, Mary Queen of Scots will be put on the throne, and the Catholic faith will return to England. It is foiled, it's discovered by Cecil, and Norfolk is executed after this one, but Mary is spared. She's still under house arrest and there is no proof that she is involved with this one. A consequence of this is a far worse relationship with Spain, and it shows that there is still a Catholic threat in England. This pushes Elizabeth to improve her relations with France because she needs an alliance close by. What does it get like for Catholics after this? Well, in 1574, Catholics start to hide priests in priest holes. This is them trying to still be defiant and hold Catholic Mass, but they have to hide their priests to do so. Elizabeth raises the fine for being a recusant to £20 now, which is only affordable for nobles, but it's even expensive for them. It also becomes treasonous to try and convert anyone to Catholicism. So we know that the punishment for treason is death, so it becomes a much harsher punishment and crime. The next plot is the Throckmorton plot of 1583, and this one is slightly different in that it is a French-led plot. Who is involved then? Francis Throckmorton. He is the go-between here. He's an Englishman that's going to run messages between Mary and France. He gets sucked into this because he goes travelling after university, he meets with Catholic plotters on the continent, and he gets quite drawn into this. We also have the French Duke of Guise. Now, if you remember, this is the noble family of Mary, Queen of Scots, and they are cousins. Philip II is going to provide money and the Pope will support this. The plan is that the Duke of Guise will invade England, he will free Mary Queen of Scots, he will overthrow Elizabeth and he will bring back the Catholic faith. However, Walsingham finds papers at Throckmorton's house with a list of other Catholic plotters involved, which helps him. He is tortured, he confessed, and he is executed. What does this show us? Well, it shows us that the threat from Mary, Queen of Scots, remains. As long as she is alive, people will use her in plots, whether she is truly involved or not. There is also the threat of France and Spain uniting, and remember, Elizabeth needs them to be at war so that she can feel safe. Walsingham's evidence also demonstrates that the Catholic threat still remains in England. After this, life gets harder for Catholics. 11,000 of them are imprisoned or put under house arrest, and it is made illegal to shelter a Catholic priest in your house. It's punishable by death. So if you have a priest hole in your house, you are going to be in some trouble. The final plot to mention then is the Babington plot in 1586, and it probably is the most important in terms of the consequences of this one. Anthony Babington is an Englishman, and once again he's used as a go-between for the French and Mary Queen of Scots. He has a fascination with Mary Queen of Scots and becomes devoted to her, despite never having met her. Duke of Guise is going to lead this one again. Philip II and the Pope will approve and they give their blessing. The Duke of Guise this time is going to invade with 60,000 men and put Mary on the throne. And Elizabeth will be murdered. Once again, he'll bring back the Catholic faith. Once again, Walsingham saves the day by intercepting letters between Babington and Mary, and he manages to get a list of 6 Catholic plotters who have admitted that they were willing to assassinate Elizabeth from Babington. He is treated very harshly. He's hung, drawn and quartered for being a traitor, and this is the plot also where Mary is arrested for her involvement. Now remember, it's not entirely fair. The original coded letters are lost rather conveniently, and Walsingham says, never mind, I can remember what they say, and he reproduces them for court, so it's not very fair. By 1585, though, relationships between England and Spain had completely broken down, as by this time Elizabeth is already helping the Dutch Protestants in their rebellion, and she's helping them directly and openly by this point. So, she's really rather cross at this next plot. She becomes determined to now crush Catholicism because the attacks on her are frequent. There are mass arrests of recusants, 300 in North London. 31 priests are executed. Mary is barred from succession, so Elizabeth changes the law that Mary may not take the English throne, and she is executed. I will go into why she's executed a little further on. But the Babington plot leads to things becoming much tougher for Catholics. Walsingham is absolutely fundamental in keeping Elizabeth safe, so we're going to talk about some of his spy methods next. How does he help use spy methods to stop the threat of Catholics? Well, the first thing he does is he makes sure that he's got spies on the continent. He needs to have spies in these strong Catholic countries so they can get information and feedback to him about any potential plots or rebellions that might be led. He also uses ordinary people so they won't be suspected, and he uses ciphers too, so secret written codes to communicate with spies, and he also works to decode secret messages that he picks up. He is not afraid to spy on the nobility, which also helps him get information. He makes sure that his spies are specially trained, and he also is happy to use Catholic priests as informants in return for guaranteeing their safety. This means that they can feed information about any Catholic traitors in the country. He's also willing to use torture and interrogation methods to get confessions, and also isn't afraid to use execution. So 130 Catholic priests are executed for treason under his reign. All of these things are used to keep Elizabeth safe. Finally then, we are going to look at why Mary was executed in 1587. She'd been in England quite a while, since 1568, so why did Elizabeth keep her here for so long without executing her when she was clearly such a big threat? Remember, she's younger, she has an heir, she is Catholic, and she has lots of alliances, so she's always been a big threat to Elizabeth. Why execute her then in 1587? Well, there's a few reasons. Firstly, Philip II of Spain. As long as Mary Queen of Scots is alive, Philip will always have a reason to invade England because he's got a suitable Catholic woman to replace Elizabeth with. Secondly, in 1585, so this is after the Throckmorton plot, the Act for the Preservation of the Queen's Safety is passed. The law is changed, and this bans Mary, Queen of Scots, from becoming Queen of England if Elizabeth is killed in a plot. With this new law, it means that if any further plots are discovered, they can use this to help bring Mary, Queen of Scots, down. Finally, Walsingham's evidence. His spine methods to collect evidence is part of the reason why Mary is executed. He has what he believes is concrete evidence that Mary, Queen of Scots, is actively plotting against Elizabeth, and this makes him and Parliament pressure her to sign Mary's warrant of death. Now, remember, Elizabeth is reluctant to do this because she recognises that Mary, Queen of Scots, is an anointed queen. This means that she has divine right in the same way that Elizabeth has divine right. She's picked by God, and Elizabeth has no right to kill her. With this evidence, Elizabeth is pressured into signing that death warrant, which leads to Mary, Queen of Scots' execution in 1587.